I'm Mason Mount. You're listening to the London is Blue podcast.
All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to yet another episode of the London is Blue podcast. What if I told you at the beginning of the season we would be recording 134 episodes? Would you believe me? Because there's only 38 matches this season in the Premier League. Obviously, there's Champions League and FA Cup and a couple League Cup games sprinkled in there. Dan, years of your life have been shaved for this podcast. 134th episode. Granted, they're not all full, not all match reviews, but pieces of content and things like that. And this is the culmination. This is the final match of the Premier League season.
It took a while to get here, but it's over, and I'm excited. I'm excited, Nick. This is a good place to be. It ended on a really high up note, and ultimately, you were the happiest man because you were proved wrong by your preseason projection, and we're all happy because of that.
I always said that I would be happy to be proved wrong, and I am happy that I was proved wrong. Brandon missed the boat, though, with his opening salvo, so I'm going to redo it for him. You got to do the ESPN 30 for 30. What if I told you a podcast would be so ridiculous as to produce 134 individual episodes throughout the season?
Yeah, that's probably a better way to put it. And to all the people that have just invested years of their life listening to us, you are the real heroes. But look, you came for a specific reason, and that reason is this match review. And so just kind of so everyone knows, this will be a match review about the Wolves match. We will do a long season review episode along with our keep, sell, loan, transfers, and all the other stuff soon. So Dan, the master of words on this podcast, thinks that we need to do a little word game. So Dan, to kick off this pod, before we get into the thanks and the gratitude, what are we doing?
3-word match review. Condensed, boil it down into exactly what you think about the match. 3 words.
Go ahead, Brandon. I was just looking at you. I know you're.
There's a couple
right
easy ones too, that like just from like Chelsea kind of culture.
Here, I'm ready. Never in doubt, because that's how I felt the whole time. Never cracked, never worried. Just don't put those WhatsApp logs out there, guys, if you don't mind.
Nick, do you have one?
Emotionally bleeping exhausted.
Oh, well, those are good. I think the easiest way to describe it, though, as always, when you think about Chelsea, the end of a match, one step beyond.
Nice. Good shout.
Yeah.
I always go with Champions League bound as well.
I mean, that's the standard, as Frank alluded to. We'll get into that. All right. Hit us up with your 3-word match review in case this is something we should continue doing in the future. Anyways, gratitude, a huge amount of thanks has to be going to some people. And I missed this, and I don't know how, but Jerry came in with a massive Patreon donation, well above what we normally ask about. So thank you. Huge. But then there's Trevor, Victor, Gabriel, Patrick, Nicholas, Jonathan, Trevor again, and Brian. All of you have joined in the last 4 days or so. Thank you. Welcome to the family, and enjoy your time in Discord. It is going to be great. Dan, over to you for the not iTunes, but Apple Podcast reviews, because Nick can't say it, so we had to give it to you.
That's right. It is a Apple Podcast review. These are all 5 stars. We want to thank Adam CFC17, Os Cole, Drew Be Good, Drew Is Blue 919, James Harden's Bookie. Very interested to learn more about that one. Jamie R16, Jubal Kimi Gami, Robbie P, and then Topher Hill City Blues, all giving us a ton of 5-star
we know
love.
Topher. Yeah, we know Topher.
We do.
And
what took you so long, Topher?
And remind everyone, We don't do the 4-star game. Okay, this is a 5-star Michelin restaurant of a podcast. So
there's no such thing as 5-star Michelin, but I
yeah,
appreciate
well,
where you're trying to go with
welcome
that.
to I don't care, Dan. Clearly, I've never been to one. So
Connoisseur of fine dining, Brandon Busby.
yes, I did grow up in Iowa. Why do you ask?
Denny's. Have you heard of it?
Never been. All right, hey, never consumed that much cheese in my life. Anyways, Nick, begging goes to you.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. We have grown significantly on YouTube in terms of our subscribers, but we need you to go smash that subscribe button. If you haven't already, go smash that bad boy. Because we're doing a lot of YouTube specific content now, and I know Brandon's been cutting a lot of videos this year. So nice to see that that's been growing. We've had almost 70,000 views on our videos this month, which is absolutely insane, and really happy about that. But we're going to keep pushing specific content there. Our audio game is strong. Y'all know that. Come follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well. We are excited to keep pumping out an absurd amount of social content alongside all the podcasts and videos that we do. So at London Blue Pod on both those channels.
Got to keep it simple with the handles. Anyways, here it is, the main event. And for you keeping score at home, we are well under 10 minutes of pre-roll stuff.
Never going to let that go, are you?
Oh, no. Wolves in the Premier League. At Stamford Bridge, Chelsea 2, Wolves nothing. As you know, we are going to send you to the Chelsea Fifth Stand app to run the goal reviews back. Listen to it. It's the only official Chelsea FC app, and they have the best interviews and highlights there. So go check it out. All right, here we go. Dan, run us through the lineups. Now that we've heard the glory that was Mason Mount in the 45+1 and the Giroud 45+4, gotta love a couple stoppage time goals, but walk us through the squad that got us there.
Well, it was Willie between the sticks. We had Antonio Rudiger, Kurt Zouma, and Azpilicueta in the back three FC, returning once again Marcus Alonso and Reece James on the wings, with Mateo Kovacic and Jorginho in the midfield too. And then you had Christian Pulisic, Mason Mount, and Olivier Giroud up top. Unused substitutes include Kepa Arrizabalaga, Andreas Christensen, Fikayo Tomori, Emerson, and then used substitutes, because we're going to get all 5 out. It's a 5-sub moment for Frank Lampard. Ross Barkley, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Pedro with the swan song, Tammy Abraham, and Callum Hudson-Odoi all coming in off the bench for the last game of the 2019-2020 Premier League season.
Yeah, all the subs really coming late in the match too, so that just kind of shows you how well the starting 11 did. Really surprised Kepa didn't make an appearance off the bench today. Obviously, no Willian.
Yeah, sure.
Willian was injured, so this is that's the bummer. He didn't get his potential last match at the Bridge, and then obviously no N'Golo Kante, which I guess Frank hadn't really talked about him. We thought maybe he'd be in contention, especially for the last game of the season. Maybe they're just saving him for FA Cup, and he might not even make it for that, because we've seen what happens when a manager forces him to play on an injury. You miss him for a lot of the next season. All right, some of the high-level match statistics from this one. Chelsea was 63% possession. We had 11 shots, 3 on target. To Wolves, 5 shots, only 1 on target, which was calmly collected by one Willie Caballero. Dominated touches, dominated passes. We had 30 tackles to their 21. So that just tells you how terrible everyone's first touch was today. Our 14 clearances to their 6. 3 corners apiece, 3 offsides to their 1. 2 cautions for us, 3 for them. And then we conceded 10 fouls to their 16. Dan, an XG map for Chelsea, thanks to our buddy at Kaylee_graphics, Kaylee with the C.
Yeah, expected goals for Chelsea, 1.3. So we overperformed, which is not usually the case. So I enjoyed that. And then Wolves with a paltry 0.2 expected goals. They looked like they were just not checked into this game at all. At all.
Really surprising, actually. And we'll definitely get into that. Look, we missed it in our match preview, Nick, and that was kind of on us that we had alluded to the fact that Wolves didn't have anything to play for, but they did. They technically had Europa League to play for, with Spurs breathing down their necks. But the game started off so sloppy. First touches flying everywhere. So many misdirected for, passes and things like that. It was just a very sloppy game overall. I guess before we really get into like the specific questions and things, was this the match you were expecting on the last game of the season? The teams, which had something to play for on both ends. Were you surprised to see what unfolded today?
It was kind of what I expected from us, to be honest. Given the emotional experience that was the Liverpool game at midweek, you could have been forgiven if Chelsea didn't come out guns blazing necessarily. But I did not expect Wolves to look as bad as they did. I mean, Wolves are a team that I have a particular interest in watching because I think they play good football and I like their system and I like their manager and I like a lot of their players. They're not Arsenal, which is another plus for them. So, I genuinely thought we were in for a dogfight today and it just never really transpired. I think after both teams got off to a sloppy start, Chelsea obviously established themselves in the game. And then the whole second half, Chelsea were on cruise control. There wasn't a real inflection point to be had. Wish, obviously, that we could have finished off a couple more, but it was pretty easy.
When we think about the lineups on the other side, when they don't start Traore, which is the danger man. Yeah, thank you, Nuno, for the present. We appreciate it. When they don't start Moutinho, like that right there, I was super shocked at the lineup that they were starting out. And maybe they were trying to play a game of two halves and see if they could wear us down a little bit, catch us off guard in the first part with being a little bit more defensive. But ultimately, this looked like a Wolves side that had given up that they were going to make it into a Europa League spot and that they're maybe hoping for us to beat Arsenal in the FA Cup and grant them an extra place.
Well, can do, Wolves. Can do. Well, we will thank you for allowing us to now get in the Champions League. We will return the favor, beat Arsenal in the FA Cup for you.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was not what I was expecting at all. You think end of season teams are polished, they know what to expect. Like, this was not the display for the Premier League to say we are the best league in the world. Look at these. And like the United Leicester match, I had that on the TV behind me at work, and I was watching Chelsea on my laptop, and I'd look around, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty shit too. Okay, wow, really putting it on display for the world to watch the Premier League come to this big peak conclusion, and it was not.
I mean, yeah, you looked at, if you watch Goal Zone after on NBC today, and they went through all the highlights and all the goals that were scored, like it was just kind of a blah day across the league. And, again, you can forgive everybody for having an off week because it's been so fast and furious. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've never produced as much content in a short amount of time as we have over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And, if we're like, oh man, we've produced a lot of content, imagine running a 10K every 3 days. I mean, eventually it has to burn out. There is no peak ascendancy on playing a game every 3 days. So, I think it was just one of those days where everyone was tired and burnt out and knew that the end was there. It's kind of like the last day of school, where you're about to get out for the summer. You're not putting in a full day's effort there.
No, and the teachers know that too. I think we kind of had that this week is that, the guys that were playing, they were essentially just doing recovery and ice baths and stuff. And then the guys who hadn't been playing, they're the ones in the training sessions, being filled by the academy players like Broja and was it Luke, Nick? Dan, who's that center mid that you're super Lewis Bate. Yep. He's been in a lot of the videos as well. And that's, kind of limping to the finish line with the amount of matches that were played in such a short period. And then of course they had to stick the FA Cup in there, as well. So obviously we played, United, in case you forgot, we beat them. We're going to remind them that even though they finished ahead of us somehow. But whatever. So let's get into it a little bit. All right. Mr. Mason and World Cup winner Olivier had themselves a day. Okay. While there were certainly leggy players on both sides of the ball, which we alluded to because it was quite shit at the beginning, 2 moments of magic from each of these players ensured Chelsea finished top 4 and that Stamford Bridge will be the only place in London to enjoy Champions League football next season. Dan, brilliant script writing. You made me sound fantastic right there. And how good does that feel getting to write that? Again, how many years in a row has Chelsea finished above Spurs and Arsenal and all that? And London is obviously still blue since our name is that. And again, the only place in London with Champions League. Like, I mean, check the boxes. Why don't we?
Oh, yeah, it is absolutely a testament to Chelsea just getting it done, and to the other clubs, really on notice. Arsenal, have finished strong. They definitely have been finding ways to win here at the end. Spurs and Mourinho getting the mind games going on, celebrating 6 as a absolute accomplishment, and getting Europa's League like it's winning the Champions League. How the mighty have fallen. Very, very interesting. But ultimately, let's bypass that.
Europa League specialist.
Let's talk about the fact that Mason and Giroud both had some really key moments in the dying moments of the end of the first half there. The Mason free kick, which I love that so quickly after that happened, there were him at like 9 or 10 years old side by side with the free kick here, Nick, getting spliced together. Quite wonderful. It was great to see him just jump in and be like, hey, Alonso, I know we're in your wheelhouse or in your territory. I know you did a Sadio Mane flip in front of the box to win that for us, but I'm going to go ahead and take this one.
Yeah, I at first thought the Alonso foul was legit, and then they played it again. I was like, well, maybe not. Maybe not.
I'll be fair. I'll hold my hand up.
Maybe that wasn't exactly the best foul. I think the ref had a tough day too, by the way. I think as a side note on this match, he struggled to understand what a yellow card type of foul was multiple times. Yeah, I mean, Mason smashed it. And I frankly, I think everyone knows that I love a Marcos Alonso free kick. His left foot is an absolute weapon. And the fact that Mason had the confidence to essentially pull rank in that moment that's big. I mean, it's big for him too, because we talked about multiple times this season. Will Mason get his scoring touch back? Will he kind of be the creator again instead of just a huge part of the effort play of Chelsea Football Club? And again, 2 big goals at the end of the season. Another assist today. He's really closed the season well, and I think showed quality that frankly some of our other players today did not show. If I'm just being honest, this was a collective. We just need to get over the line by 1 millimeter, and if we're over the line, that's great. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't a pretty performance by any stretch of the imagination.
Obviously, Dan, you talked about it. Single moments of brilliance from these 2 players, and with Mount, Nick, I don't think you can discredit that enough of the whole pulling rank type. I guess what he did, his actions, Marcos Alonso's, he's like, all right, Willian's out. I got this. I'm next in line, right? He's like, hey, this is my thing. And he has a great record to go off of, to justify taking free kicks. Again, he bends it around the wall. Left footer makes sense. For Mason to have so much confidence in himself to just step up and be like, hey, Marcos, you just stand right there. I got this. And then to execute it, like that's the stuff that you dream of as well. He came through Cobham, came through the academy. For him to literally put the team on his back and essentially get the goal that locked in top 4, which is the minimum requirement at that club. And he knows that. He absolutely knows that this is an expectation. We're only celebrating because we know the signings that are going to come. We're not celebrating because we got here. I think all of us as fans go, all right, we did the minimum this season, but it needs to be much better next season. And we acknowledge that.
And I don't want to yes, it is the minimum requirement. These are special circumstances though, right? We're going to get into that. Yeah. The achievement of getting across the line this year is far different than last year or when we finished as league winners with Conte. This was a completely revamped squad with a player like Mason Mount, who has basically gone end to end in the league over a period of almost a full calendar year, summer break. And he's just done the business. I mean, obviously we've interviewed him, and I think back to those moments because that was at the very beginning of this kind of rise to stardom with Chelsea fans then. And you could see in the interview, I would encourage people to go watch it again on YouTube.
Maybe 2 or 3 times just to really
7
soak it
or
in.
8 times if you can.
Yeah.
Just help us smash that subscribe button. No, but if you go watch it again, I think you see intent in his eyes, Dan.
Yeah.
And obviously, there were stretches of the season where maybe he didn't play up to his expectations. But man, way to close.
Yeah. It was very important that we just get this one across the line, as you said. And I think Lampard's comments on Mount in the post-match really kind of helped solidify just the whole element of what Mason does. Like, he was asked the question, like, where's Mason go? Can he get better? And Lampard responded, well, yeah, he definitely can get better because he's so young. When a player makes his breakthrough year and plays consistently, people treat them older than they are. You saw his technique on the free kick. And that whole concept of everyone forgetting maybe that Mason Mount is a 21-year-old who's playing his first season in the Premier League at one of the largest clubs, not only in England, but in world football, and the expectation that comes with that. I think Mason, is ultimately going to be relishing the opportunity to play with someone like Timo Werner if we sign Kai Havertz to play with Kai Havertz, and is not afraid of competition in any capacity. And so I think all of that, Brandon, just sets us up for, that we've got a really great young talent in our hands, and he's only going to get better.
Right. Look, there have been many players with with way more experience than Mason Mount in bigger leagues that have come to Chelsea and crumbled. Maybe a Mohamed Salah, maybe a Juan Cuadrado, even a Kevin De Bruyne at the time. Like, he was not up for the challenge. They were too raw. But Mason has that Chelsea DNA in him that he's been preparing for this for 14, 13 years, whatever it is. And he just has been brought up in this pressure of the academy that, hey, these are just the standards. The standards of excellence that are at Chelsea and in the academy go to the first team, and he's comfortable with that. And for a 21-year-old to be comfortable with that is absolutely wild. And it's great to see. So thank you to Naz from goal.com giving us the stats. Mason Mount versus Wolves, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 shots, 4 key passes. And I think these are Naz's stats, 2 good crosses, the most by a Chelsea player in each category, which is obviously fantastic. And then, Dan, you had the quotes from Frank, obviously, that just said, of course he's going to get better. And I think he did a really good job of framing it, saying, you all forget that this is his first season in the Premier League and that he's only 21 because the role we've given him is that of a 26, 27-year-old person who's been in the league for a while, and he's not. So anyways, before we move to Giroud, though, I know, Dan, you've been just eating up Marco's tweet that he put out there. So obviously, Gate 17 Marco, huge friend of the podcast. This man has a way with words, which makes sense because he runs a Chelsea publishing company, Dan.
In the years to come, the same way Chelsea supporters fondly recall Jesper Grønkar's first pivotal goal in the win over Liverpool in 2003, which helped secure Champions League football and attracted Roman to buy the Blues. We'll be praising Marcus Alonso for that dive against Wolves. He gets you going, thinking it's going to be the Mason Mount praise, and then Nick, he just turns it on you and gets the praise in for Marcos.
Look, Marco probably had some sort of bet that Marcus Alonso would flop in front of the 18-yard box and somehow there would be a goal score. He is that good at betting. So I think all praise be to Mark Worrell. Marcos
has won Marco a good amount of money in his time at Chelsea. I know that for a fact. So love Marco and everything he's doing. All right, moving on to the sexy French forehead, the meaty French forehead. Don't let the coiffed hair and the immaculately trimmed beard fool you. Dude grinds and does the dirty work, and his goal was amazing. Starts off with a great little finesse touch past Rui Patricio, and then absolutely just mugs off Cody, makes him look silly, runs around him. I think he did a full circle around him and then finished it with his favored left foot. Opta Joe stealing this one, Dan. 33. At the age of 33, Olivier Giroud has become the oldest player to score in 5 consecutive Premier League starts, taking over from Jamie Vardy, who did it as a 32-year-old. Zest. Dan, does Olivier Giroud look like a 33-year-old to you?
No, not
Play
at all.
like a 33-year-old? Like, I'm surprised. I honestly thought he was like 31.
So there's a couple of things on that goal. One, Christian being able to keep himself upright as Neves comes in from behind and tries to take him down, get the ball off to Mason. Mason with the back heel forward pass to set Giroud in motion. And then Cody deciding to try to play Giroud versus playing the ball and knocking it out. A lot of bad decisions in that whole stretch of action. But the one great decision was Giroud just continuing to go with it and somehow having more acceleration than a couple other players, which is not typically what happens for him, Nick, and ends up with 8 starts since restart, 7 goals, and just like Mason, help us get over the line at the end of the season here and help secure Champions League football. The only thing I have left to say is thank you, Arsenal.
Thank you, Arsenal. I as an admirer of Olivier Giroud and thinking back to the beginning of the season when I thought he was going to be our starting striker all year, which clearly did not come to fruition.
Half the year's not bad.
Another tremendous prediction on my part. That's why I don't do these types of shows anymore. I should just get out of the prediction business altogether. He's done everything. I mean, and this goal was so scrappy, and it was just he wanted it more goal. I mean, that was it. You saw the effort that went into it. It's one of my favorite goals of the restart because at a time where I think motivations and effort, were never in question, it's like turning it up to 11, for him. And again, to come back after not playing for the first half of the year and to do what he's done for Chelsea Football Club, like we would not be in the Champions League next year without Olivier Giroud, full stop. Before the restart or after. I mean, he has been that good. He's been that reliable. He's the best target forward in world football for my money, and what he is able to do with holding up the ball and distributing it out. He has an incredible touch. He is not the skillless donkey that a lot of Twitter users would have you think. He has a tremendous amount of flair and skill. It's just he doesn't always get to use it because he's backing people down like an NBA rebounder. I mean, he's that good. And I think Frank, definitely has shown appreciation. We're going to get to his quote in a second, but this is one that we've said over and over. Frank got a little bit wrong and then rectified it. And I think now is over the moon in my eyes that he has Giroud on the team.
Yeah. I mean, so with Olivier Giroud, he has a very distinct play style, which again, you kind of have to adapt the team to him. You can't expect him to play in a very fluid front 3, and you can't really expect him to overlap and get around. But he's always in a dangerous position, and he can bring other people in. So I've been listening. Shout out to Dan Sills if you're listening. He recommended during the Chelsea draft a Footballer's Guide to Football, and it's with Marlon Harewood and I can picture him. He played at Chelsea and West Ham. He's a striker, Carlton Cole, and they interviewed Emil Heskey, a phenomenal center forward, and he scored over 100 Premier League goals. And he talked about people, yes, as a center forward, especially you think of Michail Antonio for West Ham. If you're up there by yourself because your team is defending a lot, you're not there to score goals. You're there to collect the ball, let the team transition with you, and then go. Olivier Giroud can hold the ball. He can keep the ball moving. He can bring in other players, and he can score with his feet, with his head, and multiple different ways. He's a very dynamic striker. Obviously, he's not pacey, and I wouldn't say he's overly two-footed, but he creates opportunities when he's there, and he's so experienced that he knows what needs to happen in tight games and things like that. So just overall, I think that, look, for us to have Olivier Giroud and to have him for another season is phenomenal. I think he has been a massive revelation for this season. I know Timo Werner's coming in, but for Giroud, you have to go, look, he's way different than I am. So in certain situations, there's a good chance that like you're still going to need a Giroud type, almost battering ram to knock down those block eights and things like that too. So it's really just an appreciation of Olivier Giroud and what he's done. And also for him to have 1.5 feet out the door for January and to just slot in like an absolute professional and just get involved and act like he hadn't been frozen out for 5 months, which, trust me, as a professional, that matters. That hurts. And he's just been phenomenal. And so I could see him winning some type of like players award this season. And deservedly so. So again, just a huge amount of the praise is there, but it's just appreciation for Olivier Giroud. I mean, because he's one of the most selfless people ever. And you think of strikers, they're not really the selfless kind, right? You think Tammy could have passed in Pedro for a great little way to put a bow on that? Nah, he's shooting because he's a striker. So, credit to Giroud. I'm going to pass to you, actually, Nick, to do the Lampard comments because I just went on a huge little run on Olivier. So
Lampard on Olivier Giroud. Really pleased. Ollie has to take all the credit from January onwards. He wasn't playing a lot. Tammy played a lot. I was never unaware, which is an interesting way of saying aware, of all his talents. But that was just the circumstance of the time. Credits to his personality to deal with what he's dealt with. And there was also in a lengthened quote here that essentially said, we can talk about his personality and what he brings to training, but that would be a disservice to his actual production, which was tremendous. And I think, people get caught up in Olivier's other qualities besides scoring the ball because he does a lot of things well, and he's obviously a consummate professional, a good teammate, all that stuff. The production matches the other stuff now. And, for a team that will have 1.5 billion matches next season in a even shortened calendar, there's going to be plenty of game time to go around.
Well, when you think about the fact that Giroud basically wasn't playing for the vast majority of the season and still ended up with 8 Premier League goals, was the 4th highest goal scorer for Chelsea behind Tammy at 15 in the Premier League, Willian and Pulisic at 9. That's damn impressive, and a credit to him continuing to fight, to continue to believe in himself. And I think that's exactly what Frank was trying to call out in his post-match press conference, because you're right. Ultimately, to just talk about the intangibles of Giroud and not talk about the fact that he actually can bang in some goals too, and some pretty good ones, like the mobility to continue going after that goal today. And then as it's going to the ground, basically make sure it gets, bypassed in by Cody is just fantastic. So all credit to Giroud. I'm looking forward to how he contributes in the remaining part of this season, because we still have an FA Cup left, and I'm sure he would love to take another trophy away from Arsenal's hands, and I'm all there for it. Just inject it.
Usually, Chelsea been sending players to Arsenal. I think I should go back and re-investigate or reread the whole circumstances of Olivier Giroud coming to Chelsea. What an probably at the time undervalued signing and just coup. I think he probably came around the same time Willie did as well, right? And so we're getting a couple old players just to round out the roster.
Well, that was the whole domino, right? Because if they couldn't get Giroud off, they couldn't go get Aubameyang. So Aubameyang was coming from Dortmund. And so it actually, in a lot of ways, Arsenal has benefited from Aubameyang going to collect personal honors while they have actually not collected anything from a club perspective. We have benefited from getting someone who comes to our club and has actually helped us win trophies. So you know what? It's technically a win-win, because Arsenal fans just love to talk about stats and enjoying other things relative to actual success. So, smiles and happy times all around.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can only wait for the little soundbite clip we get from the back of the bus if Chelsea win the FA Cup this time around. I mean, he's only going to continue to burn that bridge and embolden his cult hero status as a Chelsea player. So anyways, we're going to take a break. And this is a little bit longer than normal, but hey, it's the last game of the season. We're going to milk this one for all it's worth. So again, a huge thank you to these sponsors for supporting the show financially. When we come back, we're going to have a ton of conversation about the defense, Azpi, Zouma, and also talk about Pedro leaving for the Dan of the Match poll. Be right back. All right, defense time. I don't know if you guys know, but we did this thing called a clean sheet today, and we're
what is
really,
a clean sheet?
really good at them. Not at all. So anyways, Jimenez, Traore, Neves. Look, Wolves are known for having a good attack. And we went with the back 3/5. Zouma, Azpi, and Rudiger, who was not his best game. He went to ground way too often today. Willie had a good save. Alonso and Reece James obviously doing defensive effort. Kovacic tracking back. Jorginho tracking back. Just exactly what you'd expect. So overall, it was a good day out for Chelsea. Anytime you get a clean sheet, let alone – no, we'll just leave it at that. I'm not even going to bring Wolves' quality into it because we can't even keep a clean sheet against Villa, Bournemouth, Watford, and all the other bottom feeders. So, Nick, you want to touch on Zouma today, who, look, I know he's been linked to a potential exit. Kurt Happy Zouma has a place in my heart at all times.
Yeah, he was incredibly good today. And like an eye test thing that I will throw out there is, which will not have anything to do with the stats really, is the first corner that they got when we were at 0-0. Your heart just starts pounding because you're like, oh God, like this, it would be like the worst thing to lose 1-0 off one corner. And he just did his job and hit the ball out with his head to midfield. I mean, it was like, oh wow, you can do that. Unbelievable. Great work. So
it's the neck muscles.
It just, Naz tweets out, shout out to Kurt Zouma's excellent display today. 94.1% pass completion, 100% of duels won. You literally cannot do better than that. 10 times possession regained.
Wow. 6
clearances, 2 interceptions, most in each category except passes. Dealt with Raul Jimenez extraordinarily well. Overall, solid defensive display.
Yeah, he dealt with Raul Jimenez by just smashing him out of the game in the first half. Nick,
they were getting into it too. There was some high elbows and stuff.
Yeah, Rudiger took a soft one and milked that. So you want to hear why your eye test might be better than the stat test today?
Sure. I love
that. So who scored, who I like to bring into this every single time.
Just controversy on controversy all the time.
Azpi, 7.4. Rudiger, 7.4. Kurt Zouma, 7.3.
Okay.
All right. Who scored is trash. Can we just stop using who scored, please?
Hey, at me a new stat source. Like, this is where I go. And I'm not saying it's the only data point. Today,
there's stats in the script. We just read the stats. They're exceptional.
The team stats. I know. So anyways, again, this just goes to show you. And again, Zuma's playing the sweeper as well. So he's not even playing one of the wings.
I'm going to do Nick's eye test scores for every podcast next year on every player.
Start a blog. Make some money.
So, tens of dollars. Again.
Wait, we have one. Never mind. So Zouma, I again, just nothing but appreciation again for that guy. I think he's grown a lot this season. Yes. Is his passing questionable at times? Sure. But he's a defender. He's such a traditional Premier League-esque center back. Earlier in the season, Dan, when we were having issues defensively, I don't know if you remember that because it's happened all season, but I said, what about Boley? He seems like a really good center back, plays in a 3. He seems like he can chase the ball down. He's strong. He's imperious. Watching them today, we're good. Like Zouma, greater than Boley as far as I'm concerned. So he's grown on me. I think he's done really well. And my favorite pairing all season has been the Zouma Fick combo that we saw towards the beginning of the season.
Yeah, Zouma in my mind, has over the last half of the season here played himself into the position where he's if Chelsea are targeting a new center back, he is the number 2 on the depth sheet, because you imagine whomever we're going to sign is probably, would be considered like the number 1, right? And I don't know. I think it's kind of unfair to say his passing is not good. I actually think he does a really good job with the change of play ball kind of across the field. I think it's similar to Alonso. When you're tall and you've got it looks weird sometimes when you're passing the ball. You don't look as smooth and as silky as other players. So I think that's a bad way to frame what Zouma does, because Zouma not only was good with distribution, he was really good against helping Rudiger cover Traore, which is not easy in any capacity. He helped bail Rudiger out 1 or 2 times there, and then in general, I think the other thing too is Azpi had a phenomenal game against Jota, who he was giving him the business. Man, Azpi was just annoying the crap out of him, and unfortunately ruined his perfect season without a single yellow card in this game. He had went the entire season.
That blew my mind, by the way.
And what a worthless stat. Like, congrats. You're soft. You don't have any fight in you. No, Dan.
It means he's got the dark arts. It means he's able to get away with so much goodness.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said it was Jota, not Azpi. Totally misheard that. Sorry. Yes, You're right. Yes, and that is the veteran status of him, right? Being in the Premier League so long. He knows the line. Absolutely. Look, Zouma, he had 94% pass success rate today, Dan. I'm telling you, though, the problem is, and it's not his fault, is we had John Terry. Dude is better with his left foot than most right-footed center backs, and he's right-footed. And I think that I just think back to those times as well. And even David Luiz, dude can hit a pass. We've been blessed with ball-playing center backs a lot of the time. So, yeah, overall, is he bad? He's not bad. We've just seen way better. And also, though, I don't care. I don't want him to be a ball-playing center back. I wanted him to ruin center forwards like he did today, and I'm thrilled he did that. So, like, Nick, for me, I don't need that skill set. I just need you to win it and let our midfielders get the second ball, or, Alonso's and James, whoever it is.
Yeah, I mean, every game calls for something different, right? We've said that multiple times. It's not a one-size-fits-all. You got to pick one strategy at the beginning of the season. You have to play it out and just see where it goes. I mean, there are times where you do need a ball-playing center back to move the ball through the midfield, especially when our midfield was kind of all over the place a little bit today. But really happy for him. Azpi's obviously a consummate professional. Part of the reason I have his shirt from last year is I just respect the hell out of him as a player. Frank obviously does as well, if you heard his post-match press conference. Reece James also needs to get a little bit of a shout for me. I've been critical of Reece only because I think he was anointed before he really ever played a game for Chelsea as the next big thing. Obviously has a ton of talent, a guy that I think everybody sees the future in. Could be a multiple position type of player too. I mean, there's a lot of train of thought that he might be our best central defensive midfielder, just given what he did at Wigan. Reece put in an absolute shift today. Was great on and off the ball, was great tracking back, was great in attack. I mean, obviously didn't put in a ton of like absolute peach crosses, Dan, but I loved his effort. I thought that is much more of a Premier League level performance from Reece than just trying to get forward and cross the ball.
Well, I also think the second half of this game offered nothing. There was nothing going on. It was basically a dead match in the second half, and so we almost got to start as much of a vacation as you can call it, a vacation between now and the start of the next Premier League season a little early, and there was just no fight. And so someone like Jorginho had a very easy day out. Kovacic had a really solid game. Christian had a really rough game, getting dispossessed and kind of struggling, especially when you kind of, they're just not making a lot of open lanes for him to kind of get into, but still, again, played a huge part in that second goal for Giroud. Ultimately, the whole team came out and got it done. So I think that's the message I would just say, is that ultimately we got it done. We finished top four, and Brandon, like, that is the most important thing. And again, we're not celebrating it. We're not like Arsenal where we're going to create a trophy for finishing top 4, but we're going to recognize the fact that the deck was stacked against us heading into this season. And this now is setting the stage for something really special next year.
Yes, exactly. It's the foundation. And kind of Frank talked about it. So I threw out a bunch of like a Twitter thread about this as well. To give it context, right, is my initial reactions as the season literally ended today. So no new signings. Yes. Kovacic went from on loan to permanent. Okay. Christian Pulisic was signed in January, loaned back to Dortmund. Okay. So they're kind of new. Frank, this is his second year as a manager ever. First year was in the championship, immediately went to a Champions League team. You don't see that ever. Key players like N'Golo Kante, Christian Pulisic even miss significant stretches of the season, but it's hard to really count anyone else than N'Golo Kante with the impact that that man can have. Our best player left the club, Eden Hazard, left to go to Real Madrid. And then he literally had to put trust in young players, Tammy, Mason, Fick at the beginning of the season, Reece James, Billy Gilmore towards the end of the season. And he was able to connect with them to build the confidence and trust so that they could go out and do what he knew they could do. And then he had to deal with juggling the Premier League, the Champions League, the League Cup, the FA Cup. Didn't have to do that last season. Last season, they had the FA Cup. They did the League Cup, but the Champions League is a whole nother thing. And not only that, we made it to the knockout rounds. And then that story, we'll just stop talking about that for now. And then lastly, he had to make some big personnel decisions. There was times when his players that he usually relied on couldn't be relied on. And then the whole big kind of goalkeeper, I don't want to say saga, but constantly deciding who should be in net. No coach or manager wants to do that. And he's pulled club record signing Kepa out multiple times. And lastly, I'm happy to pass to you, Nick. I put this on my tweet is that, look, Frank managed this team on pure meritocracy. Nick's talking point all season, and rightly so. Yeah, go.
Cross that off your bingo card if you had meritocracy. It's a big one.
Take a drink?
Yeah, everyone drink. The big one for me this season was the injuries, right? Once you know that you're going to lose Hazard, once you know that you can't make signings, those are kind of givens in the equation, right? The variable becomes then, do I have a admittedly young, inexperienced squad healthy for most of the season? And we've seen more soft tissue injuries over the course of the last 18 months than we had in the previous 8 years at Chelsea Football Club. I mean, there was a part of the season where we were talking to Joe Tweeds. We're like, what is happening? What is going on? You have Kovacic every other week and N'Golo missing a lot of time. Like, it's crazy. And so I think to manage your way through that with an accelerated match schedule, Dan, that only keeps growing the more you win, right? You get all the way to the FA Cup final, playing the hardest stretch of those games by far of any other team that would come close. You have to really do a good job of managing your squad. And I think sometimes Frank didn't do a great job of that, but at the end of the year, I think he really put everything together.
Real quick, coming to you, Dan. I appreciated his honesty in his pressers to say, yeah, made a mistake, or, hey, I learned something. I thought that was so refreshing.
Well, and look, we're coming at this with the bluest of blue tinted glasses because we are all super Chelsea fans. We adore Frank Lampard and everything that he's done for the club as a player, and to get to appreciate him as a manager is just super special in a way that, I don't think Ole has the same affection or memory as his playing days at United. Obviously, he got them a top 4 finish after 200 million
super sub appearance is his career. 200
million plus in investment to get them into a top 4 spot, and also some type of collaboration with the FA and VAR to help make that happen. Frank had to do it in opposition of everything. Frank and Jody, because I think Jody also is the unsung hero in a lot of this kind of conversation when we ever bring up Frank.
Don't forget Joe.
And Joe. It's a special. Like, this is going to be a season, even though, we didn't win the league. Maybe if we win the FA Cup here, kind of in a week's time. When we win the FA Cup, it's going to be special. It's going to be one we remember for a really, really long time, because there's just so many things narratively that tie back to what it means to be Chelsea. The whole "it's a Chelsea" thing, the branding, the pride of London. Like, this is absolutely just a storybook in a way. And I think rightfully so. Next season, the expectation is going to be higher, but that's okay, because the expectation always increased for Frank over the course of his career, and he always met it and exceeded it. And so that has me super jazzed for what this means for next season.
Jazzed.
Yeah, he talked about in his post-match presser too. They essentially limped across the finish line as far as expectations go. And he said, but hey, this is where we build from. And I'd much rather build from this position than further down the table, like other teams have to. And so, he understands, and I think the club understands each other so well. Frank understands the fans. He understands the players. He understands the academy. It's like this perfect storm as well that I can't remember. I think I was listening to the Telegraph podcast, and they essentially said, like, no big-time manager was going to take that Chelsea job. You couldn't sign anyone. You lost Eden Hazard. Who's walking in there going, oh, this will be great. Yeah, this will definitely help me raise my profile. And so it's kind of this perfect storm of an opportunity for Frank to come in and have a chance to learn and grow. And he did a lot of that. And look, there have been times, we put out a video. It's like, who has Frank developed as a player? And we kind of went through and talked about that. And so, again, I just think that not only is he learning to develop the players, he's learning his play style. He's learning how to navigate the Premier League. And you can't send me enough clips of him just getting into it with Jurgen Klopp and his assistants and their sideline.
Can we talk about how amazing the whole after saga that was, where Klopp tried to take this absolute high ground and try to exert some type of moral authority on it, when the guy was talking about how, like, the wind was conspiring against him at points in his career? Like, I can't F off, man.
I can't get enough of that. Frank is the man, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
That's the thing. He's Chelsea.
It's more important than that, though, right? Because I think what you've seen this year, and like if you were to sum up Frank, which we will do in our season review for sure, is fearless. He is not afraid. He's not afraid of your big time manager. He's not afraid of your
first Premier League trophy in 30 years.
Yeah, he's not afraid of your best player. He's already been there and done that. He already has the t-shirt from it, right? He's a bunch of winners' medals. He's not afraid to make a big call. He made the big call with Kepa today, obviously. There was another one. He's made a big call with a bunch of youth guys this year. And to have that as a manager, I can't imagine, like, if you go out there afraid, that's only on you if you're a player. It's not because of him. It's not because he's being timid in the locker room. It doesn't mean he's perfect. But, I mean, there's fire in his belly that rages on all day long. He's good on that. And the fact that he's been so measured this year, I think people forget how competitive competitive Frank Lampard is, because good Lord, man, all he wants to do is win. All he wants to do is improve. All he wants to do is get better.
Yeah, he's an absolute competitor, and he doesn't take excuses because he got past all of them as a player himself. So good luck coming up with excuses for this gaffer. It is not going to stick. Just real quick, just want to give a shout out to Pedro. Obviously, his last game at Stamford Bridge and his last game for the club.
His last game for the club. He'll be there for FA Cup and Champions League.
Yep. Yeah, last game at home. We'll leave it at that. Anyways, Naz tweeting, Lampard confirms Pedro is leaving. Quote, on another note, I want to talk about Pedro. He has played his last game for the club and has been serenaded in the dressing room, end quote. So whether or not it is, we'll let them figure it out. But the fact of the matter is the players respect him. The guy's won everything. He's done really well for Chelsea. And anyway, so I think it's just good. It was great to see him again. Get a good little send off. Obviously, it's weird. There's no fans in the stands to really do it, but to hear what the players did for Pedro in the locker room just shows you how much respect they have for him as a professional, as a teammate, as a person. So just credit to Pedro. And I think in time we'll all look back and be like, hey, it was great to have a player of this quality and caliber at our club, especially in a weird transitional time as well. He has some great moments, some amazing goals. And there's a lot of things that we don't even realize that he passed on to players and things like that and taught them how to be professional, but never caused drama, just went out and did the business, and that was it. So thank you.
He was here for 5 years, 4.5, whatever. I mean, it was a crazy amount of time because I think everybody forgets he was only 28 when he left Barcelona. And after all the trophies he's won, all the success he's had, and the fact that he came up through La Masia, you're like, oh man, this guy must be 47 years old by the time he leaves Barcelona. Still a relatively young guy, still won an FA Cup, still won a Europa League, still won the league. I mean,
he had to come to us to get that final trophy, the Europa League.
The thing is, he's going to go to Serie A and he's going to go win something there too, because that's just what he does. It's his brand. He goes and wins things.
It's not going to be the Scudetto, I can tell you that. All right, Dan, we're on the home stretch here. Dan of the match poll, it looks like, according to these results, that you did a good job, Dan. You did well.
I did not get a lot of
save
tweets
the best
at
for
me,
last.
So Azpi at 3.3%, Giroud at 9%, Kovacic at 18.5%, and none other than Mason Mount, 69.2% of the vote. The match for the final Premier League match of the 2019-2020 season.
So the final table, as it stands, it's all locked in. Liverpool drunkenly stumbled across the line as champions on 99 points. That sucks. They missed the 100 mark. Man City reinstated into Champions League, so they're still here. United, again, absolute trash manager and just mediocre team in third on 66 points, only beating us by doubling our goal difference. Chelsea in fourth on 66 points as well. Leicester in fifth on 62 points. Objectively good season for them, but that's going to suck for them.
Their end of the season form was abysmal.
Fell off, dude.
Well, and
it's most of the second half of the season, though. They had a really good
talk
first
about the
half.
fact league high award, Premier League high award for penalties for Manchester United this season.
It's a joke.
If they did not have that, you would actually have Man City, Chelsea, Leicester, and United actually would be below Spurs. But,
United needed a ton of help. Like, you can't convince me, A, that the FA didn't help them, or B, that Ole is a good manager. So don't even try. Anyways, the teams that are relegated were Bournemouth, Watford, and Norwich.
Goodbye, Bournemouth.
I'm okay with that. I like Villa. I have good memories of them in the Premier League from my Fox Soccer days. West Ham stayed up. Brighton stayed up. So it was a big one for them. And obviously Sheffield pushed for Europe until the very end.
If you're Bournemouth, you have a huge bone to pick with Hawkeye on their goal.
Villa match.
The goal that got
not
wasn't
given.
allowed. Yeah, not given against Sheffield because Villa would have been, I think, back down on goal diff. And so they really got lucky. And it brings up an interesting thing that we'll get to at a different point. But like, if you're going to institute all this technology in the league and it's not human error that you're going to rely on, right? Then who gets sued when something like that happens, right? When you have clear video evidence and you just completely mess it up. I mean, that it's a ton of money that Bournemouth potentially lose out on because the right decision wasn't made.
And Bournemouth has done some wonders on us the past couple seasons. Mm-hmm. So I'm more than happy to watch a bogey team fly down to a lower league. At this
Eddie
point.
Howe will be back to haunt us, and with just a different team and a different color.
He's a good manager, man. I like Eddie Howe. I know that their team just doesn't have that much juice in it, but what he's done with that club, if you go look at the last 11 years he spent with that club, they are far exceeding expectations.
I think that's the classic same voice for too long. They just need a fresh voice in there. All right, Dan, I'm going to let you take us out with this Talking THFC Tottenham Hotspur Twitter account.
That in there.
Oh, Dan, Nick did? So here's the thing. I want the timestamp. I want to know when this was.
I think it was like end of last season, before this season.
Okay, good. So this is like, hey, a long time ago we tweeted this. Let's see how it aged type of thing. Okay, go ahead.
Takes exposed.
Yeah.
Talking Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, THFC, tweeted out a long time ago, Chelsea slowly imploding would just be the sweetest thing for so many reasons. No fan base in the Premier League deserves it more. Transfer ban? Go on then. Hazard leaving? You tease. More Europa? Oh, go on then. Simply delicious. And Dan, really quick, if you could look at the standings again, if we could scroll back up in the script, I just want to see where everything netted out, because if their prediction was correct, Tottenham would be ahead of us, right?
So Tottenham actually finished 59 points, and only
Hail Mary
6 because they had scored 3 more goals than Wolves, because they actually finished lower in points.
They're so lucky to have gotten 6. And I heard Mourinho today, like, look, Jose, thank you for what you did for this club. You are a shadow of yourself. You are a shell of the Jose we knew when you were with us. He likes to break out
them up. I take them back.
Oh,
I bring them up. You know, he talked about the table. He talked about like the post restart table.
And he said since he's taken over, they were like top 4, and like since and he's like he has some rendition of the table that they're first, and I'm like, I can't be bothered with your nonsense. You've lost your marbles. You're at Tottenham. You guys,
dude, every time we
play
going
them, down. You're gonna struggle in Europa League.
Every time we play them and play him specifically, whether it's at United or at Spurs, every match review, I tell you, do not pay him a single ounce of attention. You know his script. It's already written. You can pull it up for next year. You know he's going to try and do the mind games thing. The difference is that he doesn't have the juice anymore to pull it off.
Nor the supporting cast. My gosh.
Can we also, just before we go out of here, talk about the fact that Arsenal have no European football whatsoever next season, and how
it's all riding on the FA Cup, right? So and we'll talk about that in that preview. That's what they have riding on the FA Cup, is a chance at Europe. I'm thinking about doing a little Twitter video to the Arsenal fans and give them some advice on watching the FA Cup final, so they're not in the Europa League. They need it. I can tell you, with Antonio Conte not having any European football, it did wonders for us. So anyways, that is going to wrap up our match review. Thank you, listeners. Again, 134 pieces of content came your way. Match previews, match reviews, 3-part history series of Chelsea DNA, player interviews.
Virtual club.
Yeah, we will summarize everything that's gone in our season review, but it has been an absolute wild ride. Thank you so much for being here with us. Obviously, a huge shout out to Nick and Dan, but I pay them tens of dollars every week to be here, so it makes sense. No, I really appreciate the time, guys, and I know all the listeners do as well. So that is going to wrap it up. This is the official end of the Premier League season, but hey, don't worry. You act like we're going anywhere, all right? We're going to keep the content coming. Don't worry about it whatsoever. But thank you. Chelsea did the business. We achieved what needed to be done, what was expected to be done, and now we go on to the FA Cup final to hopefully add a trophy to our overflowing trophy cabinet, because that's what Frank does. That's what Chelsea does. So that is going to wrap us up. We will be back for the preview of the Arsenal stuff and obviously the match review. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.